In this video, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you cannot get a job as a new aircraft maintenance engineer apprentice. The first one I'm going to talk about is you have no references or connections. I'm going to be the first person to be honest. Reference and connection goes a long way, especially for apprentices who just graduated with no type of experience. This is coming from somebody that came to this country with my parents was never in aviation. My dad was never in aviation. My mom was never in aviation. So I literally had to figure out everything out myself, right? And all the opportunities I have gotten throughout my whole career, starting off from my apprenticeship to when I got my license, to when I got my ACA, even contracting, guys. I'm being honest, all the opportunities I got throughout my whole career came from references. It's either from people that I went to school with or people that I worked with previously, and that is why I preach to you guys how repetition is really important, right? And when I talk about references, I'm not talking about you trying to start texting random licensed people online. Nah, don't do that, right? Your reference actually start from when you're in school right now, right? So your classmate, literally, those are your references. You want to make sure you keep at least contact of people that you're with, right? I don't see how you're graduating and you don't have at least 15 numbers of your classmate. I don't see how that's possible, guys. I still talk to people that I went to school with because I know how important keeping references of people that you're in school with, right? How it goes along with, guys. And I'm talking about during COVID. I'll give you guys a personal experience, right? During COVID, when I got laid off from one of my jobs, at Bombardier Aerospace, right? I didn't have any job, right? And I literally had to find a job, right? I was still getting government, EI, right? But I still had to find a job, right? The contract I got was from someone that I went to school with, right? And the crazy thing is, a lot of companies now, because of how the numbers of apprentices that are graduating every year, right? They don't post the job right away online, right? So what they do now is like they talk to people internally, right? They show them the job offer, like, hey, we're looking for 2 apprentices for this position. Is it an M license or E license? All right, we're looking for 2 apprentices. Do you know any apprentices that just graduated that is looking for a job, right? And guess what? If you have a reference to that company, guess who's going to get that job? You are going to get that job. They're not even going to post that job online, right? The time they start posting job online is probably when there's not anyone that give them apprentices internally, right? That's when they start posting job online. And guys, I'm telling you, reference goes a long way. So when you're in school right now, you want to make sure you keep contact with people that you're in class with, because you never know who's going to get you that future opportunity. You never know who's going to get you that first job. And I'm being honest with you, this is coming from personal, someone that I've gotten references, someone that has gotten opportunities from references, guys. You got to make sure you keep contact with people, right? The second one I'm going to talk about is you have bad interview skills. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a big one, and the reason why is you got to understand, right? Whenever you get an interview, you're not only the apprentice having that interview, right? You got to understand that at least 5 to 6 apprentices are having the same interview for that position, right? And whenever a company posts a job online, right, they're probably looking for, let's say, only 2 apprentices, right? First of all, you as an apprentice, you probably don't have a lot of experience, right? You're not standing out from a lot of people, right? So when you have an interview, they're probably looking for only 2 people for that position, right? And how do you stand out is how you do well on interviews. And now I'm finding out, because I talked to a lot of apprentices who are just graduating, right? I prep them up for interviews and stuff, right? A lot of companies now are asking technical questions. It's crazy enough. A lot of companies are asking technical questions. So they might talk about what's the purpose of AME. They might talk about hydraulic system. Like when I graduated, it was nothing, like there was not that many technical questions. But now I'm seeing companies actually now asking technical questions, and the reason why is they got to figure out the way to filter to get the best candidate. Basically, that's the whole purpose of interview, trying to get the best candidate, right? And the best way for them to get the best candidate is start asking technical questions, And this is something I'm seeing changing, man. This is something I'm seeing a lot of companies asking, even for apprentices with no experience, because you learn about aircraft in school, right? And that is why some companies are actually start asking technical questions, and so you having somebody to prep you up, you having someone to, I would say, at least if you have an interview, you got to prep for at least 2-3 days, because and people might argue with me. I have this dude talking about, interviews are all about having good communication. Yes, you got to be able to talk, right? But you still got to be able to answer questions in the right way. You still got to be able to answer questions logically, right? And this is something you need somebody to prep you up for. You need someone to guide you through based on past experience. So yeah, you got to make sure you build your interview skills, man, because your interview skills might be the one reason why you're not getting the job. And the last one I'm going to talk about is you are expecting a lot as an apprentice. Man, this is something I'm seeing. I actually saw recently because I was talking to one apprentice, right? And he reached out to me, was like, "Hey Peter, I'm looking for a job. I need something now, you know." I'm like, "Hey, what's your salary cap?" And it was talking about, "Oh, I want to get $29-30 as an apprentice." Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. You gotta make sure, you gotta understand that as an apprentice, you don't have that many value. And this is not to be ignorant or to be, boastfully or trying to. You gotta understand as an apprentice, we all have to start somewhere. I can't see one licensed person that did not start from the bottom. I started off as an apprentice making $19 an hour, and I was one of the lucky ones. I know apprentices that started off making $12 an hour, making $15 an hour, right? But you also gotta understand is, you do your apprenticeship, you're building a really, really strong foundation, right? You're building a strong foundation to when you get your license, to when you get a tap course, to when you're building a really strong foundation. I have seen people that they'll try to skip that step. They probably went to a manufacturing company whereby they're paying them $30, $32 an hour. But guess what? In those type of companies, you cannot get your license. You cannot get your license in those type of company, right? If something happens, let's say God forbid, all of a sudden COVID happens, right? Everybody got laid off, and that's something that happened to me. One of the reasons why I decided to pursue my license was because when I graduated, like I told you guys, I could not get a job, so I went through the manufacturing route. So I worked for a manufacturing company for 3 years. I worked with them for 3 years, and within my first 3 years, I had people there that were telling me that, "Hey Peter, you should consider try to get an apprentice job." But because I was blindfolded with the money, man, I was making like $30 an hour with no experience. Like, I was blindfolded with money. I'm like, man, but guess what happened? When COVID happened, I literally had to start over again. I had to start over again to get my license, making from $30 an hour to making $19 an hour. You know what I mean? But then I understood, like, man, this can happen again. I got to make sure I build myself. I got to build a safety net, make sure I build that really strong foundation. And this is something I usually preach to apprentices, man. You got to understand that we all have to start from somewhere. You can't be an apprentice expecting $29 an hour. Yes, are there companies paying that? Yes, there are companies paying $29 an hour. But hey, guess how many people are applying for that same position? Hundreds of apprentices are applying for that same position, right? So if you're not lucky enough to get into that kind of company that is paying $30, $20 an hour for apprentices, but you gotta take what you can get. You gotta take what you can get, and you also gotta understand that you're making a really, really smart investment, because yes, you start with really small salary, you're making, let's say, I don't know, $20 an hour, but guess what? In the next 2-3 years, once you get your license, man, from $20 an hour, you can make easy $40 an hour, and it can go to 60, 70. When you get the contract, you can make easy $70 an hour. You can make crazy money, So I, as an apprentice, I gotta advise you. You gotta make sure you have that mentality that yes, the pay was not gonna be good starting off as an apprentice, but you gotta understand that you're building a really strong foundation. It's something that's gonna pay off. This is from personal story, man. Like, I reflect sometimes about how I started up my journey, and I'm grateful and I'm happy I made those sacrifices. I see a lot of people when I graduated, they were expecting too much. They focus on the wrong thing, and they had the same situation. They got laid off, they lost their job, now they have to start over again. You don't want to be in that situation whereby you've built so many years of experience working for one company that you cannot get a license with, and now God forbid something happens, you got to start over again. You know what I mean? You don't want to be in that situation. So those are the 3 reasons why I see a lot of apprentices are not getting a job. And guys, this is something I help a lot of apprentices with, especially with resume building, in job application, in interview. This is something I can guide you with. I have done it before. I have literally done it before. There's an apprentice that I worked with this year. I worked with him last month. In a week, I swear to God is my witness. In a week, I actually documented the whole process, which I'm gonna post on Instagram. In a week, I got him a job. You know what I mean? look at his resume. His resume was not that good. I make sure I reevaluate his resume and make sure his resume was in a really nice, really attractive. I posted make sure I highlighted his strength. When it got to the time for interview, I prepped him up for interview. I did all the job applications for him, and in a week he got a job. You know what I mean? This is something I've helped apprentices with, right? So if you're an apprentice that need that type of help, you need someone to guide you through. You need someone to help you build your resume. You need someone to do your job applications for you. You need someone to, prep you for interview so your life can be easier. Someone that can help you out, that build a lot of reputation, I build a lot of relationship in the industry, and it's something I can help you out with, right? If you're that type of apprentice that need that type of help, click the link in the description and book a consultation. And please, before you book it, you want to be that apprentice that is ready to relocate. I don't want to talk to any apprentice that just want to stay in one city. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen easily. Please, you got to be an apprentice that's ready to make that sacrifice, move to a different province, move to a different city in terms of job opportunity, right? You got to be that apprentice that has that type of mentality. If you're not that type of apprentice, please do not book that call. I'm not trying to talk to everyone. I'm really selective with people that I work with, people that I help. So if you're an apprentice that need that type of help in terms of job application, in building your resume, prep you for interview, do your job application for you, try to get you something as fast as possible, shorten that graph of trying to figure out everything out yourself, I can help you out. Click the link in the description, man, and book a consultation and let me see how I can help you. All right, for you guys that are new to my channel, my name is Peter. I am a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, and I have hundreds of videos regarding aircraft maintenance engineer on my channel. I also have videos on cars examination, on how to pass a cars examination. So if you find my information informative and you like my videos, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Love you guys.